Hello everyone, this is Professor Xun Bian. In this video tutorial, I want to show you how do you calculate the future value of a single lump sum. So the question that we're using for this tutorial is this one here. We ask the question, how much money will you have in 20 years if you deposit $5,000 into a savings account which pays 5% a year? The investment timeline of this is very simple. So what you do is you put in $5,000 at time 0, and then you let the money grow. And then after 20 years here, we're solving for how much that you will have, which is basically the future value. So as usual, what I will do is I want to show you the key entries that you will put into your financial calculator. And then what I will do is I will bring in my financial calculator so you can actually, if you have your financial calculator by your side, you will come to work with me on that. So first of all, something that you always have to do is you want to clear the memory of your financial calculator. You can do that by doing second, reset, and enter. And then what you do is one by one, you enter the parameters that's given to us. In this case, we're talking about investment for 20 years. So we put in 20 for N. N is our time dimension. And then for interest rate, which on your calculator, you enter that as I/Y. Right here, we have 5%. Always keep in mind, if you're using the TI-BA2 Plus or the TI-BA2 Plus Professional, right? When you enter the interest rate as IY, whatever number that you put in, the financial calculator always assumes this is already a percentage number. So 5 for 5%. In fact, it will be incorrect if you put in 0.05. It will also be incorrect if you put in 5%. So here, just 5 for 5% for IY. And then what you do after that is you have to put in the present value. In this case, you're putting in $5,000 into this savings account. It's cash going out. It's an investment that you're making. So we put in this $5,000 present value as a negative number. And then after that, you can go ahead and solve for the future value. So what you do is you do CPT-FV. CPT stands for compute, FV stands for the future value. We're solving for future value, obviously, so we're doing CPT-FV. So if you do that, you will see the answer on your screen to be $13,266 plus some change, right? So this is basically the process that you go over to calculate the future value, which is really, really simple. But what I'm going to do here is that I am going to bring in my financial calculator here. I'm going to walk you through the key entries that we just talked about. This will be a good time if you have a calculator by your side, then you're welcome to work alongside with me, right? Try to put those things into your calculator to see if you can actually get the right answer. So like I said, the first thing that you should always do is you want to do second, reset, and enter to clear the memory. And then you enter the parameters that we have here. So here we want to do 20 for N, 5 for IY, and then here I'm trying to enter the present value, so 5,000, right? But notice here I want to put this number in as a negative number, so here is the plus and minus sign. I want to click on that, right? That's making this number negative, and then I will go ahead and put this in as the present value, and then CPT, future value. So this is basically how do you solve for the future value. This is how much money that you will have in this savings account by investing $5,000 for 20 years and earning 5% a year. So a pretty simple process, and I would invite you to work through this just to make sure that you can do this calculation. And a related example, which is something that you may see, it's something called monthly compounding. If you actually go back to the previous example here, we're assuming that you're earning 5% a year. And also an implicit assumption here is that you get to roll the interest that you earned from the previous year into principal and start earning interest on an annual basis. This is what we call annual compounding, right? So for this calculation that we just did here, we're assuming annual compounding. But in some cases, you may run into problems with what we call monthly compounding, right? You're still earning 5% a year, but you're actually earning, a monthly interest rate at the end of each month. Then you're allowed to, put the interest that you earn for that particular month into the principal and start earning interest on interest on a monthly basis, right? If you have monthly compounding, then you have to adjust your calculation a little bit to take into consideration that monthly compounding. So I want to show you that as well. If you have monthly compounding, right, again, we're looking at investing $5,000. We're looking at earning 5% a year for 20 years. But in this case, we do have monthly compounding, right? So to do that, number one, again, right, we have to clear the memory of the financial calculator. You already know how to do that, right? Second, reset and enter. And then if you have monthly compounding, then you have to set the P/Y in your calculator. P/Y stands for payment per year, right? And here, obviously, because we're doing monthly compounding, payment per year should be 12, right? This is how you set the compounding frequency. Alternatively, if you're looking at, let's say, quarterly compounding, then P/Y should be 4. But basically, how many time periods do you have, right? If you look at the compounding frequency, right, how many of that frequency do you have in a year? That's basically what you put in as PY. So to do that, you do second, right, P/Y, you set that to be 12, right, to indicate that you have 12 months per year. And then you put enter, right? You enter that into your calculator. And then what do? Is you want to quit this setup, right? You want to go back to your regular calculation. And then what do? Is you want to enter your N. Remember, in this case, if you have monthly compounding, right? Previously, we were using 20 years. But because you have monthly compounding, in this case, you have to tell the calculator how many months that you have, right? You can actually do that by taking 20, right, times 12, right? So to do that on the calculator, you do 20 second, and there is what we call the times P/Y key, whatever number that you put in as P/Y, then you're multiplying, right, the years that you have by that. So in this case, we have already put in 20 for this. So essentially, by doing this operation, you're multiplying 20 by 12, right? This is going to give you, if you do this one, 240 months, right? That's basically what you have. And then you enter the annual interest rate, right? 5%, right? You don't have to make adjustment on that because you have already set the compounding frequency to be 12. And then the other things are basically the same. You put in $5,000 negative as the present value. You go ahead and calculate the future value. Then you can solve for the future value that you have under monthly compounding. So like I always do, I want to basically walk you through this using my calculator, which I already have it on my side here, right? Again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do second, reset, and enter, right? That clears the memory of the financial calculator. Like I said, if you have monthly compounding, then you need to set that for your financial calculator. To do that, you want to do second, right? And then on top of the I/Y key, there is the P/Y key. That's the payment per year, right? So because I just did second and I can access that, right? And right now on the screen, you should see P/Y equal to 1. The default value is 1, right? So if you don't change that, the underlying assumption is that you're doing annual compounding. But because we have monthly compounding, what I want to do is I want to do 12 for that, and then I want to enter that, right? This is how you set the compounding frequency to be 12. All right. And then what I want to do is I want to, because I'm setting this up, I want to quit, right? To go back to my calculation. What I can do is I can do second, and on top here, you have quit, right? So now I'm back to my regular calculation, but I have already set the compounding frequency to be 12. And then what I want to do is I want to go from my N. I usually go from the very left-hand side, right? So here, my N, I have 20 years. But remember, in this case, you're talking about how many months that you have because you're doing monthly compounding. So what I want to do is I want to take 20, multiply whatever number that I put in as P/Y. In this case, it's 12. Notice that here there is what I call multiply P/Y key, right? So what I did is I entered 20 already. I want to take 20 times P/Y. So to access that, I put in 20. So I do second P/Y. So on your screen, you should see 240. This is basically how many months that you have, right? You got 20 years, 20 times 12, that's 240 months, right? And then what I do is I enter that as my N, All right. And then the rest of it is basically the same as what we did before. You enter 5 as IY. Notice here you don't have to adjust the interest rate. The interest rate is still on an annual basis. You don't have to make adjustment on that because you have already set the compounding frequency here. Okay, so you still use the annual interest rate of 5%. You do 5 for 5% for IY. And then what do? Is you want to do 5000 and put that in as a negative number for present value, right? So that's my present value. Then I can go ahead and calculate the future value. So obviously, if you did all of that, then you're going to get the same answer as what I'm showing you here on the slide. As you can see, right, if you compare the number that you have here, this is how much that you will have in 20 years, assuming monthly compounding. If you actually go back to the previous slide that I have here, go back to the previous one, right? This is what the number that we got under annual compounding, right? The number that you're going to have under monthly compounding is going to be a little larger, because when you have monthly compounding, the money is growing a little faster because you're allowed to put interest back into the account and start earning interest on interest a little quicker. So monthly compounding is your friend relative to annual compounding. In fact, you want the compounding frequency to be short. So in summary, let me actually go back to the slide that I have here, right? So this is basically how do you calculate the future value for a single lump sum. In summary, I showed you how to do that. When you have annual compounding, then I showed you another example when you have monthly compounding. So now you should know how to do that. As always, please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. And thanks for watching, and I will see you in another video tutorial.